Friends, welcome to my workplace at Ranaghat, West Bengal, India. This is a cataract with 4 clock hours of zonular tear. There is history of blunt trauma and there is zonular tear from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. I have taken up this case for surgery. Let us observe the surgical steps. This is the main incision with a 2.8 mm keratome at 1 o'clock. This is a side port at 8 o'clock. And now I am going to use Cataract, that is triamcinolone acetate, to detect any vitreous strand in the anterior chamber. If there is any, I will use a vitrectomy cutter to shave the strands. But there is no vitreous prolapse, there is no vitreous strands in the anterior chamber. And now the anterior chamber has been filled up with 2% SPMC. One more side port is made at 2 o'clock. And now I'm going to do capsulorhexis. This is a 26 gauge bent needle. The anterior capsule is incised by the sharp edge of the tip of this needle. Capsular tag is raised, and now I am using a utrata forceps to do an optimum sized rhexis of about 5 mm. My aim is to manage this case by a capsular tension ring. So the rhexis should be optimum so that it can hold a capsular tension ring. Now hydrodissection is done. Hydrodissection is done very gently. And now visco is used. Now I'm going to use two instruments, two hooks, to do bimanual rotation of the nucleus so that the rest of the zonule is not stressed. This is a case of blunt trauma, and I'm hoping that the rest of the zonule is quite healthy. And now this is a capsular tension ring. The leading end is not going into the bag, so I'm using a Sinski hook to guide the leading end to go into the capsular bag, and it has gone. The Sinski hook goes underneath the anterocapsular rim, and the CTR is pushed downward, and it has no other choice. It has to go into the capsular bag. And now the trailing end is to be placed in the capsular bag. As I go in, and I find that the rhexis margin is quite far, so I use the Sinski hook again to place it in the equator of the capsular bag. Yes, now the capsular bag is nicely supported. And now I'm going to use the Phaco handpiece to manage the nucleus. Ultrasonic energy is set at 50%. Flow rate is 35 ml per minute, and vacuum is 300 millimeter of mercury. The bottle height is 80 centimeter. And now I'm going to divide the nucleus into several fragments by direct chop, and then manage each fragment by the Phaco needle, by the Phaco handpiece. This is the first piece. It is being emulsified. In such cases, we have to be extra cautious. We must do it very slowly. We cannot hurry up. We have to take our time and do it nicely. At any moment, if we lose patience, we may cause posticapsular rent, we may catch the posterior capsule, and the idea of placing a lens in the capsular bag will be lost. This is the third nuclear fragment. And now the last one, the last nuclear fragment. At this time, I'm thinking whether I should go ahead or not. And then I decided to stop and do it using IOL as scaffold. Here I stop, ask for visco 2% PMC. As I inject visco, I remove the Phaco needle, inject some more visco, and then enlarge the main wound a bit, say by 0.1 or 0.2 millimeter. And now again I inject some visco and place an intraocular lens. This is a hydrophobic intraocular lens. It goes into the capsular bag. And here it is. The lens has gone into the capsular bag. At this time, I just have to manage this nuclear piece. Yes, once we put the CTR as well as the lens, the cortical management may be difficult, but this is going to be very safe management of this last piece. No chance of catching the posterior capsule. The IOL is a strong barrier for the posterior capsule. Now I used IA mode for some time to remove some cortical matter, but I was not successful enough in removing some cortex. Yes, I am going to have a tough time in removing the cortex. That's why in this case I am going to show removal of cortex in full. I am not going to omit any step of cortical management. Inject visco, take a Sinski hook. This is before that I take this Sinski hook and place the one haptic towards the dehiscent area, that is where the zonule is dehiscent, where the zonule is torn, that is from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and the haptic is supporting that area. And now I am going to remove the cortex very gently. Yes, not central pull, tangential pull, gone behind the intraocular lens, and going through the right side port, removing the cortex from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock. It has come out nicely. But the cortex at 1:30 o'clock, that is between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, is not yet removed. It is going to take some more time to remove that cortex. This is double irrigation. Irrigation by Simcoe, and now I am using the irrigating cannula of bimanual IA to remove the cells from the posterior capsule. I want to do a nice thorough job so that the posterior capsule is clean. The haptic came towards 12 o'clock, so I'm placing the haptic again to support the dehiscent area, and all the cortical matter has been removed by this time, and it is looking nice. So I have not omitted any step of cortical management. There is CTR, and the intraocular lens has been placed before cortical removal. So yes, it is difficult to remove the cortex, but we can do it. This is again polishing of the posterior capsule for some more time, and no visco is there. Using both irrigation and aspiration for some time, being 100% sure that there is no viscoelastic substance in the anterior chamber. And now this is Moxie. Now closing the sideboards by hydrating corneal stroma on either side of these stab wounds. And now is the final lavage of the anterior chamber. The 23G Simcoe is taken again. A final lavage of the anterior chamber is done. Integrity of all the wounds are checked. This is a bit of moxifloxacin at the end. Thank you very much for your attention. Hope this video will help you in developing your surgical skills. It is not easy to do such cases, but we have to develop skills to manage such cases. Please raise the bar of your skills and do justice to such patients.